My voice really hurts. I'm gonna try and make this quick. So this is the state of World War III as we saw it last time. The communists are winning everywhere in Eurasia, but not in Africa or South America. So yeah, who knows how long they'll hold on for down here. The answer is not very long, as we're about to see, as the West secured their first major victory in the entire war, pretty much, over the Russian faction, anyways. Oh, my throat. You don't drink for like an hour and your throat is all horrible and you can't do anything about it. And it's like, that's all horrible. Ugh. It feels like tonsillitis. I don't know what it feels like. Anyways, they take the Great Lakes, push down to Lake Malawi here. Starving Africa or South Africa here of its water supplies or main fresh water supplies, cutting them off in the Congo, finishing the rest of the main army, the CCR, and then just storming down here. And that's about as far as they make it on this advance. Over here, they carry on walking up the coast of Peru, which is a big blunder to the Brazilians, and even bigger blunder down here when they lose a load of men. And their final breakthrough into Colombia has begun, and it's not looking good for them, especially when landing up here and here and here. So yeah, overall the Brazilians, they're not looking too good right now. But apart from that, that's all the West really can do, because the Russian onslaughts are about to be put into full effect down here, as they do a massive spearhead to try to finish off the green faction as quick as possible. And they do this, split them in half, and push through here. Capture a couple 100,000 here. Reclaim their puppet in Persia. Fully, actually. And then make it to Kuwait. And the West move in much quicker now, capitulating the Arabians and the remnants of Pakistan and Afghanistan over here. So the war's open on many more fronts now. It's looking relatively even in terms of landmass, though, to be fair. So who knows? But the Russians are pretty much safeguarded, the Russian homeland. Yeah. But the green faction's dead now. But while the West are distracted everywhere else, the Russians managed to complete a landing across the Adriatic and push down to Sicily. And they didn't manage to take it, they managed to hold them there. And then the race of the Italian peninsula began, and the Russians won. And they captured Rome, which isn't very good, because now they're losing. Their allies are losing support or the ITO are losing support in the. Oh, not bloody support. What's the word? Whatever, dominance. Yeah, I'm calling the allies a lot by accident probably. And they push through back more into Germany right now, and they're going to directly affect Western Europe soon. They do one final spearhead across to Kiel Canal. And the Russian armour can't be stopped. They've got so much armour technology over the West. It's even pushing this inhospitable terrain up here, which obviously wouldn't be great. Oh my goodness, I hate you so much. My bad. I'm not in a good mood right now. Yeah, which isn't very expected. Push down through Narvik and up to Denmark here. And in the end, they managed to make Denmark surrender. So now they have full control of the Baltic, pretty much, unless Sweden changes sides. They probably won't look into things. And now they're looking at this. They see if they want to do one last drastic push to try to force the West into a surrender, considering most of their homeland is under occupation now. And they begin this major offensive in Europe, called the. I don't know who's in charge right now because we're so skewed off history. We'll call it. I'll think of a good name to think I'll write up. Anyways, one spearhead towards the Ruhr, and they start pushing into Benelux. And this went pretty well, pretty unopposed. Like, this is where the Battle of the Bulge took place in real life. They do a Hitler maneuvers and Blitzkrieg here, and there's a Dunkirk in Friesland. And now the Russians have entered Western Europe. They go through the Ardennes region here, down to the Swiss mountains, or the Swiss Alps rather, Swiss mountains. And they finished with the Württemberg Alsace pocket. And you want their armor technology is so above everyone else's. They'd even make risky moves like pushing up to Calais, finishing that off. And this isn't the first time the West have seen something like this before, so. But this time they got Iberia to fall back on, so they're not as worried as they would be, or were last time. Well, they didn't have much time to worry about last time, but they're leaving loads of their fronts open, so there might be room for liberation later. Anyways, the French have lost their Alps, so now it's just a combined push up here. And Paris fell a minute ago, or so. They pushed to Cherbourg, and then finally finished on Brest, and there the Channel port's gone, so lots of supply gone. And pretty much the end of the French government, and we could have the French communists being reinstated by Russia, but I don't really feel like doing something stupid like that. So yeah, the push across Europe's been a horrendous one for everyone on the front. And one final big manoeuvre from the Russians here will pretty much enforce their dominance in Europe, where they complete the pincer manoeuvre from Bordeaux and from Marseille to like central, I don't know, Lyon's up here, we'll call it Lyon. And they finish this pocket of hundreds of thousands of the ITO soldiers out there. And then they push down to the Pyrenees, where millions of soldiers from the ITO, across the ITO, are holding. So that's pretty much the eastern border, the eastern front done for the western front done from the Russian perspective. They still got Iberia, but you know, yeah, that's Europe. That's loads of their production capabilities just gone. But Norway still holds as well, so they're sort of several feet in the continent of Sicily. And at this point, the West are in absolute ruin, because, well, I mean, obviously, their centres of command are all occupied. And the pushback begins in Asia. Not too majorly, but majorly enough to the point where it's making them back. And the West now being very, very unorganised. I did that pretty well this time. The West being very unorganised now, just start pulling out of territories. They pull their troops out of Arabia, who are very unorganised, have no supplies. They don't want them to be killed, or because that's like just suicide keeping them there. And the Russians and Co push back to here. And this is a very dumb retreat. Well, not a dumb retreat, but a sad one, because they're losing all the oil fields down here. Push into Syria begins, and a slight one into Jordan, and more of Arabia is taken by the Russians. You capture a few thousand troops fleeing from ports down here in Aden, and they make it to about here for having to stop, because they don't want to whatever the word is, their supply. I really need to go to sleep, as they say. Anyways, yeah, so now this is the state of the Russian faction. Anyone will be mistaken thinking they're going to win this pretty easy, but they've kind of abandoned their allies to be here. One final pushback in the Chinese front. Well, not pushback in total, like a total pushback. They force them back to the borders here, and maybe a small offensive to Xinjiang. That's about it. Because the Chinese are holding pretty well, and they take advantage of chaos in the west to start making some movements on aid of Russians here, and B, mainly the Chinese Republic, and they manage to do, or try to do a spear to the coast, but it falls short and they get pushed back a tiny bit. We can't demonstrate that here, because let's say they made it about here and they got pushed back. But the Chinese PRC are doing pretty well. And finally in Russia, I'm going to do this now for the sake of myself. They're liberated, and the rest of Africa falls. Ooh. Including Madagascar. So that's the Russian diamond reserves gone, if they ever wanted any of those. And then, after extensive campaign in what are called, the Andes, Ecuador capital, which I forget the name of right now, captured. Colombia surrenders. The colonies are liberated, and Brazil falls with a final spearhead up the coast. And then, yeah. So there we go. If we're looking at it in terms of, well, I mean, yeah, it's a bit obvious. Like the Russians aren't in the best of positions here because they lost loads of their allies who now don't want anything to do with them. Even like the soldiers going over their governments in exile. Yeah. But the European front was won overall, and so began the bombing of several more cities in Europe. Not just bombing, like nuclear bombing. Um, so Russian nukes, London. No, no, that's so stupid. I don't know why I said London. Norwich. No, well, they wouldn't nuke cities. That's so unrealistic. Sorry. Uh, no. If they nuke a city, then it's all hell and everyone dies. Even with just the plane bombs, no missiles been developed yet. Wait, so if enough of them are dropped, then surely. Yeah, I was gonna say. Maybe some strategic, tactical nukes. That's a bit sensitive to do. I mean, come on, man. What do you want to do? Maybe they drop one on the Sicily thingy little stray here. I forget the name of. To try break it. Maybe it's a nuclear wasteland now. So Hearts of Iron moments. Anyways, yeah. My brain's fried. I've had enough. Goodbye.